Well, hello out there. Welcome to Cancer Joy Club. Today, we're having a deeply personal and powerful conversation. My guest knows firsthand the devastating impact of late stage cancer diagnosis, not as a distant story, but as a reality she lived through. Her husband passed away from stage 4 melanoma, a cancer that, with early detection, might have had a different outcome. She's here to share her journey, the heartbreak, the lessons, and the love that still remains. Welcome to Cancer Joy Club. Sorry, Joy Cast. Well, why not? Let's cast our joy out there. The wonderful Catherine Parrillo. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you, Grace, for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I just get, I'm engineering the show. So I get little like for example, it's not streaming on Facebook for some reason. So I get these notices. So I'm like trying to speak and take care of stuff. So
And fix it.
yeah. So this is gonna be the cancer cast.
Sounds
Joy
good.
cast. Cancer
We'll
joy
cast the
cast. Yeah,
net.
there you go. We're casting a net for early detection.
There
Let's
you
do
go.
this.
I love it.
All right. But thank you so much, Catherine, for being here and for sharing your experience with us. I really appreciate that. Well, first of all, can you share a little bit about your husband, who he was, what he loved, and what made him special?
Well, my husband, Frank, I like to say his name because that means he's still very much a part of the world.
Yeah.
My husband, Frank, was a man who just brought joy, honestly. And he was loved by lots of people. And he didn't understand it. He didn't understand the amount of joy and love that he brought to other people, which was so, to me, very endearing.
Yeah.
And But he just was a guy. He enjoyed life. He was simple. He enjoyed the simple pleasures in life. He wasn't complicated, and I just miss him.
I know. I know. And this was quite recent.
Yeah, he passed January. It was a year. January 10th. It was a year ago.
Yeah, thank you for being here and for telling your story. And if it can help one person
Absolutely.
with early detection, I also have a story of early detection where during the pandemic, I skipped my mammogram thinking, yeah, I'm going to be okay. I've always been okay. I've had like cysts or this and that. They're all benign. And turns out 2021, I did my mammogram. I was stage 3. So imagine if I would have done it in 2020, I would have been stage 1 or 2. So it's a big, big deal to have early detection. I'm very passionate about this topic. And when did you first notice that something was off with his health? Like, what were the first signs?
So honestly, he had his first skin check was back in
Hmm.
2014. I kind of convinced him back in wait in 2014, and he went every year religiously to an amazing dermatologist in New Jersey, and she would find little things and send them in. And in 2018, he was found with a in situ on his face, and they just said, "Go about your business, get skin checks every 3 months. All is right with the world." In in 2020 during the pandemic, she was like, I don't like this thing on your shoulder. And she sent that, and that was also melanoma, and that was stage 2. And
Ooh.
again, it was just get skin checks because the curative rate, I guess, of melanoma when it's early detected like that is like 95%.
Oh.
So yeah. So when it's found early, generally speaking,
Hmm.
it's contained. There's no lymph involvement or anything like that. They just kind of send you on your way, and you go get skin checks, and all is right with the world. So in 2021, we moved to Florida, and right before we went and saw Michelle at the dermatologist, and she did a whole complete, baseline again, just to make sure, because now we're going to sunny Florida, and everything
Right.
was fine. And by December of the following year of 2022, he was getting dizzy, but we chalked it up to he got new bifocals. He was working from home, so he's on the computer, so he's getting some headaches here and there, but he didn't complain about anything. And
Yeah.
and then my daughter's graduation in December, he almost fell at graduation. Didn't want to tell anybody. And a week later, he was in the hospital with 4 brain tumors.
Oh.
So it was kind of blindsiding because there was nothing in between get skin checks, which he had done every 3 months. Even when we were in Florida, he had a dermatologist here, to bam, he's got 4 brain tumors. So there was nothing in the post care of early stage melanoma. And that's where I'm very like something.
Yes, absolutely. And you told me, I remember when we talked earlier, that he had some symptoms and some signs that he didn't tell you about.
Well, yes. So, so like I said, we chalked a lot of his symptoms up in August of that year. He woke up one morning and he said he was dizzy and it felt like vertigo, because I have vertigo.
Yes.
And so we gave him a Dramamine and did our thing. And then we got a little dizzy. He looked like he was very drunk getting out of the truck one day, going to the store. Like if somebody would have seen him, they would have thought he was completely inebriated. And he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And by the time we finished walking around the store, he was.
Yes.
And then, like I said, my daughter's graduation, he stood up at graduation, almost fell down the stairs at the Yingling Center in Tampa. And then we were at a show and he threw up and I took him to the hospital. And while we were there, he said to the doctors, these were the worst headaches of my entire life. And I kind of looked at him like dumbfounded going, would you have liked to have shared that with me?
Yeah, that's crucial. But sometimes we're kind of in denial of what's happening to us. And I think maybe he felt like he knew something was wrong, but he didn't want to face it. I have that feeling. Sometimes
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
What that was.
Or maybe he was like, hey, life goes on. I just had a couple of headaches
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it could be both things or a mix of both.
I think he was hoping, like the doctor said, it was low blood sugar and he had to eat more salt. So he grabbed a bag of potato chips. And I was like, I don't think that's it.
That's a great solution. I wish everything, the solution to everything, all the problems in the world was potato chips. Yes. I'm a big fan. With avocado oil, though. Avocado oil is the best.
There you go.
Absolutely. So was there like ever a moment when you thought, oh my God, this might be serious, or was the diagnosis a complete shock?
So we were at a play the day I took him to the emergency room finally. And I just could see that whole day, he just wasn't right. He asked me to drive in the morning. I watched him walk to the door of the theater. And as I'm sitting in the theater, I'm Googling like ERs near me. I thought maybe he had a brain bleed. I thought maybe he was having a stroke, or mini strokes. Metastatic melanoma tumors to his brain was not on my bingo card. So when the doctor came in and said, hey, you have 4 brain tumors, and the one I think was almost like 2 inches, it was big. I was like, oh, okay. And at that moment, I really thought, well, I'm not going to have this man around for a very long time. So I started to process that immediately myself. He, however, did not, up until I think the day before he died. He not think he was going to die.
Well, that's a good thing. So he had,
which was a good thing, because I do think it kept him alive for a year.
Absolutely. Yeah. The hope can keep you alive. And not be negative about it. Yeah. But I mean, 4 tumors, that is, wow.
And so that's where I feel like between 2020 and 2022, right? I got to get my dates right. Between 20 and 2022, I feel like if we were told that, or we're given an option to have brain MRIs and things like that more consistently as follow-up care from a in situ or a stage 1 or 2, even if it was once every 6 months, maybe we would have caught it a year earlier,
Yeah,
one would have been smaller and we would have had a jump start on things rather than him having
100%.
to have 4 at once.
I'm a big proponent of MRIs. Even, I kept one of my breasts, the other one I had reconstruction. And I am a big proponent of every 2 years to do an MRI, besides the mammogram and ultrasound and everything that they do, because my excuse is like I tell my doctor, I want to see how my implant is doing.
Mm,
And the only way they can do it, I don't want them to mammogram it because they squash it and they can break it.
right.
It's terrifying. So that's how I get an MRI, to make sure the other one, because sometimes they don't catch things on a mammogram or
Right.
ultrasound. So MRIs, if you guys are up there and you had stage 1 or 2, and you want to check your whole body, check with MRIs. It's the best. CT scans, of course, also work. And if they suspect cancer, PET scans.
PET
But
scan.
MRIs are, and it could have probably saved his life.
Whether it would have saved his life or at least let us fight it with a little bit more
Yeah.
of a better outcome or have a fighting chance, I do honestly believe that's where we were shortchanged in that department.
100%.
So
Do you feel that the doctors were, I'm not going to say negligent, but were not aggressive enough in following up, for possible spread?
in New Jersey, yeah, I believe that his oncologist sort of dropped the ball. And I understand that, like reading papers, because I became a very avid reader on melanoma. I do understand why it's not prescribed as a standard of care, because there are a lot of false positives and can cause
Mm,
other treatments and things. Like, an MRI could pick up something that really isn't, and then you go in and you biopsy the brain, you're taking pieces out. So I understand why, but I do feel like there should have been a little bit more aggression or just better follow up, other than skin checks, because it was great. He had nothing going on the outside. It was traveling to his brain, and it wasn't in his lymph node. So what do people know about cancer? Oh, if it's not in your lymph
mm.
node, you're fine. Well, they don't tell you
Well,
that it spreads on other cellular routes.
level.
And
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
and if insurance doesn't want to pay for it, give the patient all of the information and let them choose to pay for it out of pocket.
Yes.
Knowledge is power. And
Yes.
had somebody said to me, "Hey, listen, this is," I would have pushed for it myself and would have paid out of pocket
Yeah.
if I knew that was a possibility. But to make it sound like it's just, oh, just go get skin checks, you're fine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When people dismiss me like that, I'm like, no. Like I think I told you the story that I had COVID last summer, and breast cancer can't spread to the lungs, right?
Right.
So I had COVID, and then I kept coughing for a few months, and I was like, well, is this COVID or is it lung cancer?
Right.
I mean, the breast cancer metastasized to the lungs. And I kind of had a feeling it was COVID. But you know what? I went to my oncologist and she was like, I don't think it's lung cancer, but if you want to have a CT scan, I was like, let's go, let's do it. It
Right.
was clear, nothing happened. But I learned after my experience with the mammogram and ultrasound that I skipped, that time is of the essence, because cancer
Yep.
spreads so fast.
Fast.
It is insane. That sucker is like, and it feeds off of anything. It's a scavenger.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anything in the body. People are like, don't eat sugar. Listen, if it's not the sugar, it's going to be your hormones. There's hormone positive cancer. It's going to be the protein in your cells, the HER2 positive for cancer.
Yep.
It's a protein in your cell that your
Mm-hmm.
body overproduces, and cancer is like, hey, I need some. Bring me the
Right.
surplus.
Exactly. And, they didn't, and I was looking over his old, pathology reports. They didn't classify it with, what kind of so there's NRAS and there's BRAF mutations and all the BRAF and all these other
Yes.
like mutations. They didn't do that back in 2020. So whether it wasn't known yet, and so he was before the next breakthrough happened, so there was this, space in between. But of course, he had the NRAS mutation, which is one of the more aggressive forms, which, when they did the one in the brain, that's when we found out. And I'm like, well, it would have been nice to have known that maybe early on, because if we knew that back then, maybe then they would have said, let's get MRIs all the time. So I think
Absolutely.
a lot of it is, timing,
Yes.
knowing what the new discoveries are, so I do, like, my mom had lung cancer in
Yeah.
1997, and the things that they can do for lung cancer now compared to what they could do for my mother back in 1997, it's night and day. So I'm happy
100%.
that the world is coming to
Yes.
that, and if
Absolutely.
his death can be used for something good and help other
Yes.
people, which is why I wanted him to be in a case study towards the end when I finally found one that would work for him. We both said it. He's like, if I can help somebody else, I will. And that was just the kind of person he was. Like, I knew it wasn't going to help him, but if his loss is for somebody's gain, then I feel like he did something good for the
It
world.
makes me sad, and it also makes me grateful that you are carrying his spirit. I feel like you're carrying his spirit and using his experience. And I think he probably would want you to do that. I think he wants you to do that, to use his experience to help others. And you're doing such a beautiful job. And just being here, like we said, if it helps one person, we've done, we've done our job. And cancer, that 50% of Americans are going to have a bout with cancer in their lifetime. 50%, versus in the 1950s, only 5%. Of course, I'm sure there were cases that were not registered or considered cancer or whatever back then. But imagine 50% of people
Yep.
in this country are going to have a bout with cancer.
Mm-hmm. It's baffling to me. I mean, I don't think there's anyone I know who hasn't been directly impacted by some form of cancer, whether it's lung
Yes.
cancer, pancreatic,
Yep.
colon, brain, whatever. Somebody has been touched directly by cancer and loss. And
Yes.
it is it's a very dynamic landscape. It is a always constant changing landscape. And that's why I think it is really hard to fight, because cancer is just it is an amazing cellular thing.
Yes. It's smart too.
Exactly. And I think we have our work cut out for us, but really early detection is our best defense against any of it. So
100%, because the fight is not fun.
No.
Let's face it. Yeah. I'm a triple threat: surgery, chemo, and radiation. That's the only triple threat I can claim. Anything else, I'm not a triple threat. But yeah, it's just affecting so many lives. Do you think that maybe like the food and the air we breathe and the cleaning supplies and all the carcinogenic things that we have around us are affecting people's health?
I do. I do think that we are ingesting and surrounding ourselves with things that are more unnatural than in the past.
Yes.
And certainly certain cancers tend to lend themselves to that creation because of the unnaturalness of the world. But to me, skin cancer is the most natural cancer you can get because you're out in the sun, and but I was reading something that a doctor had said that by 2040, I think he was saying, melanoma is going to overtake lung cancer as the leading cancer diagnosis. And I think about all the days, you laid out with the tinfoil and the album and, the, the baby oil and the suntan boots before prom. And, it's a crazy thing to think about what we did to ourselves before we know. My daughter, who's 24 almost, I know she puts on sunscreen and she doesn't go to tanning salons and she doesn't do any of that stuff. So I'm hoping maybe they're smarter than we are, and maybe it might peak and then drop, fingers crossed.
I believe so. I believe that that's happening. Remember when we did the oil, like Johnson's oil?
Yeah.
Baby oil. I used to put it. And then when I was 18, my parents had a pool in their house and I was living with them. I already had these, what do they call them? Crow's feet a
Uh-huh.
little bit. I was like, what is this? Because I was laying out in the sun. But now I teach swimming in the summer. And if you see me, I'm like a swimming nun. First of all, zinc everywhere.
Uh-huh.
I wear a rash guard, swim pants, swim shoes. So my feet are covered too,
Uh-huh.
and a hat. And I put anything that's exposed, I put like this natural zinc um, sunscreen that I buy. By the way, guys, it's available on my Amazon store.
Okay.
Amazon.com/shop/ the state of Grace frag. I'm going to put the banner. It is amazing, and it is so natural, and it protects you for real. Did you notice that's one thing, like for me, after my cancer healing journey, I call it, um, I started being very aware of what I put on my body, in my body. You did this bring awareness to you as to, being more careful of what you do with your, eating or cleaning supplies or clothes or
I would love to say yes, but if I was being completely honest, I honestly think that only now that I'm a year away from loss have I really even had a chance to digest that kind of stuff and make
yeah,
those kinds of changes, because
yeah,
he was sick for a year. So that whole year, all I cared about was keeping the man alive,
a
and doing
hundred
whatever we
percent.
could to,
Yes.
and then the year that first year of him being gone was just me trying to keep myself alive, honestly.
Yes.
And so now I've kind of kicked it into gear where it's doing stuff like this. It's speaking out, it's meeting people, it's trying to get events, trying to talk to doctors and things like that, where I feel like maybe I can start making some changes. I mean, I'm dark skinned, I'm Italian. I never
Hmm.
thought about, sunscreen or things, but yeah, dark people can get skin cancer. I mean, Frank was
Yeah.
very fair skinned. Don't get me wrong. He
Yeah.
was very white, and he was out in the sun growing up. He lived on the lake, was out on a boat all the
Yeah.
time, but he was always with his buddy who's just as fair skinned as he is. He's never once had anything taken off him, and Frank was just burned and freckled all the time. So
Yeah. You can't blame, the cancer patient, like, oh, they smoked, they have lung cancer, they were in the sun, because it is so random. It's
it
really
is.
like a lottery,
It's a
you
very
know,
arbitrary cherry picked
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. Like I always took care of myself. I was an athlete. I ate healthy. I still got cancer. So,
Right.
so
Exactly.
it's so right. And I know people that smoke. I mean, like a pack a day. They eat very unhealthy. They don't exercise. No cancer.
Right. Go
I
figure.
mean, go figure. Exactly. Absolutely. Now, I do believe that. I don't know if you believe this, but I do believe that we can have control of what we eat and everything else, to not help cancer if the
Right.
cells want to, because the main thing, we all have cancer cells. It's when they get into a community, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they start building angiogenesis, I think it's called. They start building like little veins so they connect to your blood system. What the heck? Those things
Right.
are smart and they're
They
fast
are
too.
smart.
I know. And they're so quick. It's like, dude, slow down. What are you
And they
doing?
outsmart the doctors and
Yes. And
yep.
they're camouflaged sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
It is
So
a little
once
crazy.
it's that's why I do the podcast. I want to make sure people are informed and exactly what you're doing, helping other people be aware, to create awareness, because cancer
Mm-hmm.
is real
It
nowadays.
is.
It's yeah. And 50% of people are going to have a bout with cancer. So
Yeah.
not become paranoid. I have a friend who's a
Right.
hypochondriac. So she's always like, I just had a mammogram and ultrasound. And she's like under 40. So it's like, you should not be getting them. But she's like, I just made my doctor do it because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just don't be so worried that you create
Right.
the quantum field, so to speak, for the cancer to grow, right? So so we have to be aware but not be hypochondriac aware,
Right. Don't be
right?
afraid to live either.
Exactly. Absolutely. Our days are counted no matter what. We're all going
Yes.
to exit this cube we call the world, right?
Yep.
So it's going to be one way or the other. Now, we want to stay healthy, of course, but again, it's a crapshoot.
That is true.
It really is. So let's talk about a little bit about navigating the medical system and
Hmm.
treatment. 'Cause I know you are very passionate about that.
Yes.
So once he was diagnosed, sorry, I always have a siren. It's like a baptism.
I'm gonna have a sip of coffee first.
Yeah, I live in LA near a police station and fire station, so it's always going to be. It's a matter of when. So okay, so that's like they're coming for.
They're coming for us.
Yeah. So once he was diagnosed, so how
Mhm.
easy was it or difficult to get the care that he needed?
So we were down in Florida at this point, and all of my Jersey people were all like, "Come back home! We have better doctors." And
Yeah,
I honestly have to say that the three doctors who treated him in Florida predominantly were amazing.
yeah,
The neurosurgeon who swooped in and did his first surgery, and then he did his other three, was awesome.
nice,
I felt like he was in very capable hands with that. His radiation oncologist, Dr. Desai, who did his stereotactic radiation, was this brilliant doctor. I mean, brilliant. But who made every decision and made him understand every decision so beautifully,
nice.
well written, understood that his medical background was not like mine. And not that I have a medical background, but I'm a little bit more in the medical jargon than he was. But he made him understand it, but not make him feel stupid.
Right,
So
right.
he was beautiful and amazing. And then finally, the doctor that we found for the case study for the clinical trial, Dr. Doonan, was fabulous. So I didn't feel like we would have gotten better care in New Jersey, or if we went to Sloan, because everyone's like, you have to go to Sloan, you have to go to
Yeah,
I don't really feel like that was the issue. I mean, at that point, stage 4 in your brain, 4 brain tumors, there was really nothing. What I felt was missing was the oncologists, again, was they kept treating him standard of care, which is now immunotherapy. Um,
yes,
and immunotherapy is great, but
yes,
he had no cancer in his body for the first 9 months. It was just contained to his brain.
yeah,
So giving him immunotherapy to stave off it coming into his body did more harm than good and didn't fix this. So
right.
all the research I had done, it took me to get all of the buzzwords to type in and finally find Dr. Doonan. And it took me almost 10 months to find him. And at
Yeah,
that point, it was so late. But I do feel like, oncologists, unfortunately, and one of the doctors had said to me, he goes, oncologists know 10% of 90 cancers. I know 90% of 2. And that's makes the difference between a specialist and a general oncologist. So I don't blame them. I just feel like, again, one of the oncologists, I will never forget her, she was just like, well, he's got an NRAS mutation, and well, there's really no studies, and we're just gonna keep going with what we're doing. And I'm like, go, okay, great. Like
yeah,
so, and that's where my research and my reading and my bringing stuff to people's attention and got me to finally where we were. I wish there was a person in all of these big giant hospitals that say, we don't have the person here, but at this
yeah,
clinic here is
yeah,
this person.
yeah.
And let's help you navigate that. And I think that's a part of cancer care that's missing, that I really feel like
Absolutely.
they don't really talk enough to get you to the right people.
Absolutely. I went to the right oncologist by accident. She specializes in breast cancer, which is great because her experience is, 99.9% cancer, breast cancer. And
Mhm.
and I'm sure she treats other cancers, but I think maybe not. And she's one of the top 10 in the country or something, like she won some kind of award. But just dumb luck. But nowadays, like you said, I would definitely request a specialist, like even if I had to pay out of pocket,
Yep.
like somebody who knows exactly, who studies specifically that type of cancer or that organ
Yeah.
or tissue
And
or whatever.
again, like I did find Dr. Yan, she's from Mayo, and she does
Nice.
melanoma. And when you Google, and we found her, and but again, because it was already metastasized to his brain, it was so limited. His treatment
Yeah.
was going to be so limited. So she even said it. She goes, whatever I recommend they can do back home, you know, because she was in Jacksonville and we were in Delberry, and he's, you know, she's like, so we can talk. She goes, but the treatment's going to be the same. So even going to that specialist at that point, because it was already here and not
Mm-hmm.
anywhere in the, like, he was in that spot where he really wasn't going to really get treated
Right.
correctly. So, you know, it was I don't want to say a lost cause from the start, but it was. We knew what the outcome. I knew what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. That's wow. And it's only been a year. You're still, you feel like you have a lot of PTSD, like medical PTSD.
sometimes,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I get a headache and I go, ooh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You
Right.
know, but yeah, it's a little bit of PTSD, but I think my passion for wanting to just help anybody or talk to anybody is kind of drives a lot. And the crazy thing is, I didn't know anybody with melanoma until Frank was diagnosed.
Right.
And once he was diagnosed, I met two people. One
Mhm.
whose husband had almost a very similar story to mine, except his first melanoma diagnosis, I think, was like 15 years prior. Then all of a sudden he got dizzy and he had like 30 mini tumors in his brain and he
Woo.
passed very quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my other person I had met, her sister was diagnosed, and I think she passed within like 6 months and had no
Wow.
warning sign.
Not at
So
all.
to me, coming from knowing no one to all of a sudden, bam, in my own town, mind you, was like unbelievable.
Right? It's almost like we all find each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
great. And
it
there's,
was overwhelming to say the least that
yeah,
it was like right here in my own town.
that is insane. There's so many people. When I came out on social media after all the treatment, I did not want to come out when I was going through the treatment because the stress was too much to be on social media. I'm kind of like a public person. And so to be on social media would have been another stress that I didn't need. But when I came out, I can't even tell you how many people messaged me like, "Oh, my mother went through this, and I am going through this." Or I think you know, somebody was like, "I'm gonna call you because I think I might have ovarian cancer," and you know, and all these people that just it's incredible, ridiculous how many people are touched by cancer, one
Yep.
way or the other, themselves or somebody they love.
Right.
So, did you feel like you had enough support in understanding the treatment options?
From the medical, please,
Yeah, from
no,
the doctors? No.
no.
Yeah.
Um, Doctor decided his best to try to explain as much as he possibly could. Most of it was my own research. I was very blessed and fortunate. My cousin is a neurologist. So with it being in the brain, he
Yeah.
helped me navigate the brain, where it was, what functions, where the tumors were going to bother, you know, what to expect, what to look for. He was my kind of go to as far as having questions. So I was
Mhm.
very blessed and fortunate to have Rick with, you know, go through this with me. I mean, I was literally taking pictures in the hospital of like his scans and texting Rick and, you know, just trying to get a feel for things. Or am I barking up the wrong tree if I ask this question? Should I ask that question? But as far as it was very status quo. Like, you know, this is what we're going to do. And you just did what they told you. And that's not how
Yeah.
I operate. So a lot of the things I learned was on my own.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of papers, I tried to do like research papers, like read research papers, not just, you know, blogs of people too. Like I wanted to really like read the research and understand it. Um, but what really got me through it were my friends. We started a message board where I would report what we would learn and what we would know. And just because we were here by ourselves, it was just me, Frank, and my daughter in Florida, really alone, physically, but we were never really alone. Like I never felt like we were alone as far as in the fight. All of our people were my posse. They were awesome.
Oh, yeah. No, you have to have community of some sort, both the
So,
patient and the caregiver. You got to have it because it's a tough battle. It is just devastating for everyone.
yep.
Yeah, it's so like speaking of devastating, were there any moments during treatment where you guys felt hopeful and what kept you both going?
What I loved about Frank was, like I said, he was very simple
Yes.
and he enjoyed the simple things. And honestly, like he would have surgery on his brain and they'd send him home like a day later. Like it was fascinating to me. And he was
What?
like bouncing back like from these surgeries like super fast. So he really did amazing in his recoveries from
Yeah.
all 4 surgeries.
Yeah.
So that was like the hopeful part.
Yeah.
But I saw the decline. I could see the decline. Like, again, I knew it was a death sentence from that
Yeah.
first diagnosis,
I hear
but
you.
he didn't. And he was a trooper. He was diagnosed in December, had his first brain surgery in December, and we had plans for my daughter's graduation to take her to Hawaii. And we went to Hawaii for 2.5 weeks. Well, we went to LA and Hawaii. And while it wasn't the trip we had anticipated, because he really couldn't do a lot, he got on a plane. He got on 2 planes. He did a tour of like Warner Brothers. He did a tour of, Santa Monica Pier. He went to Hawaii. He went to the Pacific Ocean. He saw the sunrises and the sunsets and, ate poke bowls and he did it. Do I think he knew that was our last family vacation? Maybe.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks after we got back, he had his second brain surgery. So you would never know that on vacation this was happening in his head. He got to go home to New Jersey and spend his birthday, Father's Day weekend with his fishing buddies that he would do every year. And I'm so glad I got him on that plane and his buddy took him and he went and he celebrated and he had a good time. And so there were so many moments of just joy that we all held on to,
Yeah.
over that year, because really when we got to May for my birthday, he was in the hospital for my birthday, but I didn't think he would be there for Valentine's Day, never alone in May and June and July for our anniversary. Christmas, I didn't think I was going to have that. So we held on to those moments as much as we could because I knew they were fleeting and we had to take it all in and really just live it and live life as best we could and find the joy as much as we could. So
100%. I think going through cancer teaches you that every moment is precious and not to waste it worrying about the future or the past, just live in the present. The present is a present. It's a gift.
Yep. It is a gift.
Absolutely. And our lives are a series of nows. The past is gone. It's a memory. And the future is the imagination because it hasn't happened yet. So I love that you guys did that you enjoyed every moment. I always live my life like it's my last day on earth. And because it might be, we don't know.
You just never know.
Yeah, but unfortunately, cancer does teach, unfortunately, but it does teach a lot of us that we got to live in the now. And you guys did that. And that is amazing.
We did try.
You did a great job because that's the only way to be in general. But you did it during the hardest times. That's not an easy task.
Yeah, we tried to find humor as best as we could. I made pancakes with, like Frank's brain tumor. Like my Easter eggs. I drew Frank's brain tumors
I
in his on an Easter
can't.
egg.
That
You
is
know,
so dark and funny.
it was really terrible. It was people really thought I was mean, but like,
No,
but
it's
we
not
tried. Like, I named
me.
the 4 tumors: Larry, Mo, Curly, and Shemp. Like
Oh my God. Yes,
so
you have to name the tumors always.
so we definitely try to find humor, try to
Yes.
make light of things, as much as we could, especially when it was
Yeah.
hard, because
Yeah.
you have to smile, because I really do think that helps you get through a lot of the hard crap. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I probably cussed a couple times without knowing. It's so natural to me. I once did, let me tell you a funny story. I once did a stand-up comedy show. They told me you have to be clean, clean, clean. One of my friends was there. I come off the stage and she said, "Girl, you said the F word like 3 times." I'm like, "No, I didn't." I looked at the tape. I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't even realize it's so natural." So I totally get it. Don't worry. It's the Italian gene, right?
Something like that. Or
Something
Jersey.
like
I
that.
always say that gets my Jersey out. I don't
I
know.
love it. So what was for you the hardest part of watching him go through this battle?
I think watching his personality sort of drift away.
Mm.
Because Frank was a big guy. He was like 6'2", big guy. I joke, I said he was the fattest cancer patient ever, because like he just kept eating, because he
No,
was on so much steroids. Like, he gained so much weight.
no, they make
Oh
you
my
so
gosh, he was
hungry.
oh my god, he was hungry all the time.
Yes.
So, but his ability to connect again, it almost reminded me of when my dad, because he had Alzheimer's,
Mm.
you get your brain plugged in and picked at 4 times, it's going to do something to you, you know?
Absolutely.
Um, but watching him go to bed early,
Mhm.
he would be tired by 7:30 and
Yeah.
kind of just zone out, and he didn't want to do things, or he didn't
Yeah.
understand why something was funny anymore. Um,
Oh,
that hurt, because it was like I was slowly losing bits of him.
yeah.
But I think the hardest part really came after the last radiation round, and his last surgery that was like in November, like Thanksgiving. And that's when I was like, my husband is dying. Like, that was the first time I can remember really saying out loud, like, my husband is dying. And he was in this active dying process for about a month and a
Mm.
half.
Ugh.
He started to fall. And he wouldn't fall. He would just kind of implode on himself.
Wow.
Like, he never like fell over. He would literally, his body would just he couldn't hold himself up.
Yeah, because
And
it
he
was
had done
really,
that multiple times. And
wow.
so watching this very strong, robust man, he was never frail. I can't say he was frail, but watch him become weak and dependent, and just his personality. That was what was breaking my heart.
Yeah,
That was the hard part for me.
I can only imagine. I'm so sorry you had to go through this, and that's such a beautiful man is gone. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Ah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So let's go to the part where we're both here to raise awareness
Yes.
and, convey the lessons that we learned from this journey. Okay. So do you think there's enough awareness about melanoma and early detection? If not, what needs to change?
No, there is definitely not. I think everybody thinks skin cancer. I think everybody thinks skin checks, which is great. And
Yes.
I am a huge believer in everybody
Yeah.
should go
Every six
a lot.
months. Every 6 months,
Every
you
six
should
months,
go.
every
Yeah.
year, even if you want to start out with a baseline, and just
Yeah.
everybody should go today. Make
A
an appointment with your
hundred.
dermatologist today and get a skin
Yep.
check.
Yep.
And get a good one. And if they don't look in every crack and crevice that you have, find somebody else.
A
Because
cancer
I will tell you,
specialist.
Michelle was amazing. And
Yeah.
she dug in there on my poor husband, and she got in there, and I will say she saved his life, because I think if she didn't
Yeah.
find the little first tiny spot,
Oh yeah.
I don't know what would have happened, honestly.
100%. And also
So
like a skincare doctor that specializes in cancer. I get checked every 6 months and I go to a dermatologist. It's called the skincare at the Cancer Skincare Center.
Okay.
It's they know how cancer looks like.
Right.
Like if they see something. So my advice to people, like you said, get yearly checks. I would say 6 months if you had cancer, for sure. Get checked and
Absolutely.
make sure that the dermatologist is not, just treating psoriasis or whatever. Make sure
Exactly.
that it's a cancer specialist so they can
Hmm.
spot that stuff. And they look at everything, with that little microscope thingy.
Yep. The light. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they got
yeah,
to
yeah.
move stuff around. I mean, Frank was a big guy. They had to move some stuff around. So look in places that you don't even
Yes.
think there could be melanoma, like in your
That's
eye
right.
or down below in your
Down
scalp.
below, yes. I had a friend
Mhm.
who was like, yeah, they say that melanoma is caused by the sun or, aided by the sun. She had one down there and she's like, it's never been exposed to the sun. So
Yeah,
what's up with that?
exactly.
So we'll find a way. Cancer will always find a way.
It will find a way. Yep.
Oh yeah. Sun or
So
no
my
sun.
biggest, so that's my yes,
Yeah,
go get skin checks. If
totally.
you come back and you have basal cell or you have this, and it's not melanoma, keep going, get your skin checks. If it is melanoma, find a melanoma specialist, get as much information, make sure you find out what mutation is, and start those clinical trials early. That's my other thing is like he was so strong when we started that he would have been a great candidate for a clinical trial. But by the time he started the clinical trial, he was already so weakened.
Yeah.
He didn't have a chance, and then right after he passed, or right after, yeah, I think right after he passed, they passed the TIL therapy was approved by the FDA. And that is amazing, but it is invasive and it could kill you before, to fix
Ooh,
you.
yeah, yeah.
But ask the questions. And if you don't like your doctor, get a new one and fight for those
Yes,
tests, fight for those scans, and
yes. And
ask
second
questions.
opinions, Catherine, second opinions.
Absolutely.
Do you
Absolutely.
know that my second opinion doctor was as fantastic as my oncologist? He looked at my MRI and he said, one of the lymph nodes looks like it's infected, like it has cancer. Nobody else caught that. Okay. So I told my oncology surgeon, I said, I want you to look at the MRI, and looked where Dr. Holmes, that's his name, said there was cancer. And I actually felt itchy there. Like it was, I
Mm,
had an itch, and I told the doctor, I said, it's here. And he was like, yeah, that's exactly where it is. So I already had an itch. It was already bugging me. And so my surgeon, my oncology surgeon, took that lymph node. She only took 3 because I asked her not to take too many because there's risk of lymphedema. But she took that because I knew that was infected. So she took that one. The other 2 were not. That one was infected. It was just starting to spread. Imagine if she would have taken 3 other lymph nodes that were not affected, and then they would have been, you're okay, you're stage 2, and then it would have spread.
right.
So second opinion, like the second opinion literally saved my life.
Right.
I am
Yep.
a big proponent. You guys, if you get diagnosed, don't be afraid to ask for a second opinion and a third.
And a good doctor will want you to get a second opinion. And that
Yes.
was the one thing when I said I want to go to Mayo to this Dr. Yan, they're all like, that is an excellent idea. So I
Yes.
felt confident in the doctors that we were seeing because they weren't like, no, we're fine.
Yeah,
We're,
the ego.
they were like, yes, go see what she has to say. Bring back more information. So
Yes.
if your doctors aren't talking to each other, if your oncologist isn't talking to your surgeon, who isn't talking to your radiologist, and there's not some kind of cohesive group, find a new group. But
Yes.
you really have to advocate for yourself and go in. I had
Yeah.
my, Frank's brain cancer notebook, and I wrote everything down and kept copious notes on everything. So,
Yes. And then research,
you have to
right?
advocate for your person.
Absolutely. You have to. And ask questions. That's so important.
Mhm.
I torture the doctors. I have like on my iPhone notes, like a lot of questions. And they're like, okay, we're done.
Exactly.
No, we're not done. I have like 5 more questions. So yeah. What do you think are some of the misconceptions about melanoma that you wish more people would understand?
That it's not just about what's on your skin.
Ah,
That's the biggest thing is that
yeah.
melanoma is invasive. It is fast moving. It
Yes.
moves on many modes of transportation to different
Yeah.
parts of the body, especially
Oh,
the
yeah.
nervous system. And yes,
Oh, the
skin checks
nervous
are
system?
well, yeah, it can travel on nerve cells, so which is why it
Oh,
heads to the brain. So
that makes sense because not the blood, because the blood doesn't go up there.
So
Oh, the
yeah,
lymph.
so
Oh my
that's the
goodness.
biggest misnomer. So it's like you feel like, I mean, he was going every 3 months for skin checks, but that wasn't telling you what was going on in the body. So, who would have thought you'd have brain cancer that was skin cancer in your brain,
The doctors
Um,
should have, I think with stage 2, if I was a doctor, I'd be like, let's check the organs, let's do a
all
complete
the
PET
parts.
scan, or I would have done a PET scan as a doctor. Sometimes I think I'm a doctor, by the way. So I'm sure you have the same
We
syndrome.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I would do. Stage 2 means, it's spread. It might have spread. I don't know.
right.
So definitely I would have all my patients do like a complete PET scan, even stage 1 patients, because
Yeah,
you don't know, the cancer is so sneaky.
it is sneaky. But again, like I understand why.
Yeah.
I do understand the hesitant to do too
Yeah.
many scans early. I get it. But I don't know.
But
I just feel like even if it's if it's your stage 1, go every year or every other year for an MRI. If it's stage 2
yes,
or above, it should
yes.
be every year. If it's stage 3, well, you're already screwed. But then go every 6 months,
Well, I was stage 3, so every 6 months I get checked.
I do believe that that's
Yeah.
the reality is stage 2A and 2B is not mandatory MRIs
But it
for
should
melanoma.
be. I'm
And it
sorry,
should.
it should be, because that means the cancer is traveling, and it travels fast.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. It's just the insurance also doesn't help. But I would,
I do think insurance plays a
yeah.
part,
Yeah, but if I was a patient of stage 2, if you guys are stage 2 and your doctor doesn't give you like an MRI or a full CT scan or a PET scan, and you want to do it and pay out of your own pocket, I highly recommend just pay out of your own
Yep.
pocket. It's worth every penny.
Yep.
So if you could give one piece of advice to someone who hasn't prioritized skin checks or screenings, what would it be?
Go tomorrow. um,
Yes.
well, today.
Yeah,
Find a dermatologist in your area and make an appointment. You can't undo anything we've done. Like you
absolutely.
can't undo your tanning bed time. You can't undo not wearing sunscreen. You can't undo hours on a boat. You can't undo sunburns from when you were 14.
Yeah.
But start today, use your sunscreen, but go and get checked. Just get a baseline.
Yeah.
Like I had a baseline done, and I only had one done right before we moved to Florida because I'm like, well, we're going to Florida. Let me see what's going on here, And everything I pointed out to her, and that's the thing. Anything you notice is probably not. It's the things that when Michelle said to Frank, I don't like this spot here, and the two of us literally looked in the mirror, and she's pointing, and we're like, what spot? I don't even see a spot. And
Oh
she's
my
like, yeah, I don't
God.
like it. That's how tiny and this thing was that she found. And so, yeah, all the things I pointed out, I was like, so what about this thing? What about this? What about that one? And she's like,
No, I know. I do the
nope,
same thing.
nope.
They're like, oh, that's nothing. That's benign. That's benign.
Yep.
Yeah. And
So,
I don't know, I highly recommend everybody, if you go get your skin checks. I love that little gun that they shoot you with. What is it? What is it? It's a gas. I can't remember what it is, but
I don't know.
it burns everything. I'm like, kill everything on my
Everything.
skin. Yeah, even if it's benign, I don't want cancer to have a benign space to grow.
Right.
Kill. So my back is like, shooting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the back, because you can't see. I'm like, I'm
You can't see
paranoid
it.
about that. I know.
Yep.
So yeah, so just, what is it called? Nitrogen, I think it's called. Isn't it nitrogen?
They freeze it off. Yeah.
Yeah, they freeze them off. So get everything frozen, you guys. I highly recommend it. Oh my God, do you hear that?
I
It
do.
is
What was
so
it?
annoying. It's like, can you please let me do a podcast in peace? Just one. That's all I'm asking. It
There
never
you go.
fails. We have two so far, so this is serious stuff. This is something that needs to get out. When I get two sirens in an hour,
Something's
that's
going on, right?
yeah. So how did losing your husband change your perspective on life?
Oh boy. I think I am much more aware
Mhm.
of the space around me. I always knew I had an amazing immediate family, and my immediate friends.
Yeah.
But like I said, his group of people that rallied around him and me and my daughter really sustained us, and never ever have I taken that love for granted.
Yeah.
But it has definitely made me much more aware. I was always one to try to check in on my friends here and there and just be like, hey, just checking in on you. But I try really hard to make sure that if I know somebody else is going through a hard time, that it's, you got to step outside of your own grief and stuff. But my biggest thing that's changed me is I feel just a tad more motivated to do something positive in regards to this. But I hate the fact that I have to do like the stuff that he did, as a widow. Like this whole widow thing is terrible. I don't like grief. Grief is very squiggly, and I'm not a squiggly kind of a person. I'm very linear,
Yeah.
very, and
Yeah.
this,
It
being
just
happy
catches
on
you
Tuesday
apart.
and like a
Yeah.
mush on a Wednesday
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
awful. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
function well that way, but it
I
has
hear
made
you.
me feel much more blessed and grateful for what I have around me.
That's a gift.
It is. It
Definitely.
is.
Yes. And how do you keep his memory alive in your everyday life?
you know we laugh. We always say, like, so Frank was at his funeral. I spoke about him and how you throw a pebble into a lake and it skips and it makes all these ripples. And looking around at the funeral home, like, there were so many people there, people who knew people who I never met, but who knew of Frank through my daughter or through whoever. Like, he made a lot of ripples in the world, and that's my goal, is to keep his joy, keep his life, keep his love for life alive,
That's
and to do
beautiful.
something positive with it, to not make it be in vain, to make people aware of not just melanoma and cancer, but just kindness
Yeah.
just who Frank was, and say his name. Don't be afraid to talk about him. And it makes me feel good. It makes my daughter feel good. And I know people talk about him, not necessarily just with me and her, but he's part of so many people's life. And that just brings me a lot of peace.
Absolutely.
And so we're doing, I'm going to do a little plug, but so
Yes, please.
back home in New Jersey, our town, Mount Olive in New Jersey, we are doing a Mayor's Wellness Walk. It is the Mayor's Wellness Walk. It's just like a storybook walk. It's only 1.5 miles. But there's going to be a whole bunch of vendors and things. But Liz, who is the coordinator, she is allowing us to have a table to talk about melanoma awareness, because it's May, and May is Melanomas Awareness Month. And we're going to try to raise some money for clinical research for late stage cancer, for melanoma. And it's a good thing. It's a start. I'd like to do a 5K specifically for melanoma again at some point, and really just start to raise awareness and raise money and do good in the world. But May 31st, if you're in Mount Olive, if you're in New Jersey, come see us. It'll be fun.
That's awesome. How can they sign up for it?
It's Mount Olive Recreation. There's no fee to sign up to do the walk. It's just to come. We have these really cute P-Dog Posse hats to give away if you make a donation. And there's a lot of people coming. There's doctors and dermatologists and chiropractors, acupuncturists, lots of different wellness, not just, medical wellness, but just overall wellness, aromatherapies and things like that. So it's a good day. It's a good day. It's in our town, and to be able to be part of that, because Frank was part of the town, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm looking forward to that in May.
That sounds amazing. Thank you for doing that. So, what do you want people to take away from your story?
I just want someone to take care of their people, um, to get them checked, and to fight for them and to advocate for them wherever you need to go. Ooh, that was weird. And to go to whatever doctor you have to go to and fight for your person
Yeah.
and fight for yourself if it's you.
Yeah.
And don't take this fight lying down. You really need knowledge is power. I said that throughout this entire journey. Knowledge is power. And the more
Yeah.
you know, the more you can go in and the better treated you will be.
Thank you. Thank you for
Sorry,
that.
that's my dog.
Oh, no worries. We know the dog was going to participate just as the sirens do. Like, everybody wants to be a part of this podcast.
Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely. That's how I see it. So, Catherine, your story is a really powerful reminder that early detection can make all the difference in
I
someone's
do
life.
believe that.
Yeah, it's not just like about statistics. This is real people, real families, and real love. If this conversation resonated with you, I urge you to schedule a skin check, talk to your loved ones about melanoma, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Awareness can save lives.
It
Thank
can.
you, Catherine. Thank you so
Thank
much for your
you.
strength and vulnerability today. Your husband's story will continue to make an impact, and I know he would be incredibly proud of you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. And thank you for letting me share his story. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us. I'll see you on the next Cancer Joy Club live
Have a
podcast
good
or
one.
Joycast.
Joycast.
I'm going to have something like Joycast. All right. Bye, guys. Mwah, love you
Enjoy.
all.
Bye-bye.
Life hit me with a storm I never saw coming. Stage 3 breast cancer. But let me tell you something. When the storm passes, something beautiful can emerge. I know because I lived it. Get This Off My Chest is my story of transformation. It's about finding peace, joy, and positivity in the middle of the hardest battle of my life. This book is for anyone who's ever felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, especially when it comes to your health. It's not just another cancer memoir. It's a guide to reclaiming your life, your joy, and your power. When I was going through cancer treatment, I made a choice to laugh through the chaos, to surround myself with love, and to embrace every single day with gratitude. I want to share that with you. Get This Off My Chest is about shifting your mindset, flipping the script, and learning to find light in the darkest moments. Because I believe that transformation is beautiful, and every challenge, no matter how hard, is an opportunity to rediscover yourself. So whether you're fighting your own battle or supporting someone you love, this book is for you. It's for the warriors, the survivors, and anyone ready to live life with joy, strength, and a whole lot of humor. Get your copy of Get This Off My Chest. It's available on my online shop, www.thestateofgraceshop.com. Your journey to healing starts now.